Feel death's grip. Darkness swarms. Mortal. Darkness swarms. Arise, my children.
Resist the assault! A veil of safety and security, such wildly delightful is the moat of my might. Another challenger. Life is so brittle. Such wildly delightful inspiration. Handle this! Twin terrors. Time to up the stakes. Life is so brittle. Until next time. Time to up the stake this vitality boon. Time to up the stakes. Shadow, rise and fight.
My mana is gone.
Until next time.
Lawbreaker. I
Stop.
the law.
Life is so brittle. A glorious spirit to take this vitality boon. Give yourself to the void. Life is so brittle. And dazzling display of survival. A cascade of pain.
Death made real.
Do what I say. Stand still. A cascade of pain.
Caretaker, to me, this world is doomed.
You will long for
Non-existence, everlasting fire. Annihilation. Incineration rumble.
Be gone.
I think next.
sin surrounds you. Burn away, no. Sin. Impossible. How? This isn't over. This will never... Game.
Hello and welcome, my name is Crox and I'm not a native English speaker, so bear with me if I made some mistakes. Just let me know. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, but I'll do my best to explain the build because I know this will help a lot of people because it's a really strong build. I made some builds that I also translate to English in the past because it was really, really good. But I really wanted to do one that didn't need as much investment as other builds I made. I made some builds with Mage Blood voices and stuff, and it was like, all right, it's pretty good, but it's out of the reach of most people. So this one is more affordable. It's not a 10 dips build. It's actually a kind of like mid-range. Like the cheap version will be like 100, 150 divines, and the version I have right now cost me around 350, but I don't own the market, so some things went up, some other things went down. But yeah, I'm just letting you know it is what it is, even though I'm gonna explain the build so you can mix and match stuff and make the most of it, and trying to teach how to craft most of the build. So let's go. First off, we are a Pathfinder, and the Pathfinder has some cool stuff. We're gonna be using Master Surgeon, E, and Adrenaline. This one are damage stuff, but Nature's Adrenaline, E, Master Surgeon is really, really important. The Nature's Adrenaline plus the Tides of Time and some nodes like those one, Brew for Potency and Spike Concoction, those nodes allow us to have permanent flask. We only activate them once, and we have it all the time, even if we don't kill stuff. We just need the enchant to be reused at the end of the flask. You can also use the one that says use when charged fall, but I like more the reuse at the end of the flask because you press the buttons so you know they're active. Sometimes if you enter the map and you just start running, the flask take a while to activate. So it's kind of weird. I'm gonna try doing like voided maps with this build. So I'm kind of like paranoid if I enter the map and flask are not up or something. So I prefer to use it manually and just one time and we forget about it. The other one is the Divine Life Flask of the Order. Well, it's not has to be like exactly a saturated Divine Flask, but I really recommend it. Just buy a quality 30 flask, roll it until you get saturated, and craft Avoid Being Stunned. That's it. The rest of the flask are per Genesis. We don't need a perfect one. Just get like a medium, or yeah, like a medium. It's good because we have a lot of charges. And Replica Sword of the Divine, and a Ruby Flask with Alchemist. Just craft it and slam some damage taken from hits is leech as life during effect. And Quicksilver. This should be like this one. I think we need just like a T1 curses and the charge recovery. All right, so I'm gonna explain this mechanic, which is kind of weird to see. When you use the flask, this happens. All right, this happens because we have a Mauxetol machination. This shield has a lot of stuff. You can read it on the wiki. I'm just gonna tell you about the important stuff. The important stuff is when the energy shield reach max, we're gonna get Everlasting Sacrifice. This gives us 5% maximum resistance. That's how we get to 90% of fire and chaos resistance. And also gives us Divine Flesh. Divine Flesh makes us take only 50% of the elemental damage. We take it as elemental damage. The other 50% we take it as chaos. So that combined with the Lethal Pride of Rakiata, really important, we get Temper by War. And Temper by War gives us 5% or makes us take only 50% of cold and lightning damage normally, and the other 50% takes a fire. If we combine that with Divine Flesh, means that we do not take cold or lightning damage. That's why we don't have resistances. We only have fire and chaos resistance. We don't have the other resistance because we never take damage from cold or lightning hits or damage over time or anything related to cold and lightning. So that's a very strong mechanic, not only because we're taking no problems with cold and lightning resistance. That's pretty cool. But the really cool thing is that if we get damage from cold or lightning sources, when that converts to fire and chaos, the penetration do not convert. So we don't get, like, for example, the shaper balls. We don't get the penetration there. We only get the damage, so it's really, really easy to mitigate. So that's one part. But what about physical? Physical is one of the more important damage in the game because it's very prominent. Like almost everything has some form of physical damage. Well, we convert absolutely everything to fire and 8% to chaos. The chaos part is in the implicit. You don't need to have this because if you don't have this, you can just have an implicit of 8% taken as fire. Also, fire is better. 8% of fire is much better because we have a lot of reduction. We're going to talk about that. But fire is better. So if you have a lot of money and just get a 8% physical taken as fire, that's much better instead of having taken as chaos. We convert everything. How we do it? 8% here, 10% here. We get 40% here. That's a big one. And we get these watchers that give us 12% and 10% if you're using Purity of Elements and Purity of Fire, respectively. And also, we have the Lethal Pride with 4 nodes. That's really weird that this jewel is kind of cheap, actually. But there is like 3 or 4 numbers in this area that has 4. You can also try this area. I think there is one number here that has 4 physical taking as fire. So in my case, I have 5% here, 5% here, 5% here, and 5% here. We don't use frenetic, sadly, because we don't have frenzy charges, but we use everything else. So that's pretty good. 20% there, 40% here, that's 60, 70. We get 22 here, that's a 92, and 8% hit, that's 100% of physical damage taken from hits. We take it as fire and 8% to chaos. And 40% of the physical damage that's not from hits, we also take it as fire, so it's pretty good. So right now we take no physical damage, no cold damage, no lightning damage. We only need to care about fire and chaos. What we do about that? Well, first of all, Pantheons. Since we're using Forbidden Rite, we hit ourselves all the time. And this is always active. 6% of reduced elemental damage happens all the time. And we also using, I'm lazy, I should be using Shakari with the upgrade for 5% reduced chaos damage. Really, really good. So that's what I should be using. And we also use this, where is it? Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor gives us a whopping 22 less fire damage taken. Remember, we are converting a lot to fire and we're reducing that by 22%, which is massive. So that's pretty, pretty good. And we also reducing, let me get my notes here. We also reducing this using Enfeeble. We have a curse that is Enfeeble. That's 17% less damage from rares and uniques, or they do 17% less damage. That's pretty cool. And also we have Malediction. The Darkseer, one of my favorite reworked uniques lately, is this one. It's really cheap. It's like a 1 divine or 2 divine scepter. We don't need the elemental damage because we don't do elemental damage. It just happens to be like this, so I bought it. And this gives us Malediction. We do a lot of hits, so always using blind on the enemy. And when the enemy is blinded, he has Malediction. Malediction gives him 10% reduced damage and 10% increased damage taken. So it's pretty good defensively and offensively. Also give us like some extra levels and stuff. So it's pretty cool. We have all of that. And on top of all of that, when the damage finally reach us, we're going to be reducing the damage or splitting the damage with Progenesis. Progenesis, that 25% of damage that is splitted to damage over time during 4 seconds, is also increased by Flask effect. So we have 25% Flask effect here, we have some nuts on the tree, and we have also the Ascendancy that gives us even more Flask effect. So it's pretty cool. I don't know how much it is. I think it's like 32% or something. So it's pretty good. And since we have a lot of recovery, we get like 3.5k from Divine Life, from the Divine Life Flask, sorry. That's a lot, and we're leeching the damage from the hits we take. We have some recap, and we have some leech. All of that combined is really, really good. And we also have damage taking life gain from hits from our spells. We hit a lot of time with Forbidden Rite, so it's pretty good. We have a lot of recovery. It's really easy to be full HP all the time. So that's one part of the equation. Also, I'm not coding this on the POV because it's kinda like cheating, but actually not. We have punishment. Punishment makes the enemy take a lot more damage when it's low life. So when it's low life, that's half of the life. Takes 55% more, that's a lot. But also, when the enemy hits us, and that doesn't have to be low life, they gonna get debilitated. Debilitated? I don't know what this shit. So that gives it also 10% less damage taken, or 10% less damage they do, so we take 10% less damage. It's really good. So we have a lot of layers of defense, a lot of reduced damage on the build, which is pretty good. And in terms of damage, we have poison and we do Forbidden Rite. So we don't have to care about criticals. I forgot to talk about this in defense. We don't have to care about criticals because poison enemies cannot crit. We also don't care about poison because we craft our boots with cannot be poison. We don't care about bleed because bleeding cannot be inflicted on you thanks to the corruption. We don't care also about corrupted blood because I have this corruption here. And we don't care about elements because we're using purity of elements. So that makes us immune to all elements, including the alternative ones. You know, brittle, sap, and scourge. We don't care about those either. So we are covered there. And curses, we also have immunity to curses thanks to this. This only shows 64%, but with the increased effect, that reach over 100%, so we're good. So we are very covered defensively in all areas. And in terms of damage, the question is how much damage this build does. And the damage is, that's the cheap version. This is the expensive version. The expensive version is doing 23 million damage if the enemy is not low life, because if it's low life, we're doing 28. And we also, if we use our, where is it? Frostblink of Winter Blast, that has Cooling Strike, when the enemy is in cooling range, we reach 31 million. And if we use in Focus, we reach 40 million. That's 5 more millions than the dot cap. So we are really good in damage. And without using Focus, without the enemy being in low life, and without the Cooling Strike, we are still dealing 23 million damage, which is more than enough for all the content in the game. And thanks to the Pathfinder, we have a Master Toxis, which when an enemy dies poison, it proliferates the poison to other enemies. So it's really good. It feels really good. Even though we don't have explosions, the proliferation clears almost everything instantly. It's really good and feels great when you're clearing. So that's about the damage. We already covered the defense. We covered the recovery already. And the cost of the build, we already talk about that. And what's left to cover? So yeah, the Vermilion Ring is really weird, right? You're looking like triple fracture, and we have like a fracture with Shaper, but it also have the wiggle thing, so it's also Elder. What the fuck is this ring, right? And us an Essence modifier. Well, I crafted this with Necropolis. It's kind of easy to do. It's not so cheap. It's not so expensive. It costed like 16 div. 60. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Like this 1 and 6. This number 16. 16. I think it is. 16. It was really easy to do. I think I not have the best components or the best arrangement of the corpses. I'm gonna leave the link below. If you wanna change this and doing better, go ahead. I crafted the ring with 4 copies and triple fracture. I got some bricked ones, and I sold one for 50 divines. So this is the other one that's kinda good. So one went for 50. I already paid for all the rings and the ring I'm using right now. So the idea is to get life, cast speed, recap, and life per enemy hit with the spells, 3 out of 4 fractures. Once you get that, you just get the other part. That's kind of easy to get. Actually, the life gain with spells, it's the easiest one to get because for some reason they let us do Awakener Craft with something that is fractured. So you just take a ring that has the life gain on hit with the spells and Awakener Orb to the ring you crafted with triple fracture, and you're gonna get the Shaper mod there. And once you get it, you just spam some Essence of Delirium to get the 15%, and no other modifier, suffix cannot be changed, Reforged Caster, and 1 in 3, you get the tier 1 life per enemy hit. Then just craft increased damage or whatever you want, and that's the ring. That's it. It's not so hard to make, and also you make some cool ones that you're gonna sell, so it's pretty good. In terms of the other stuff, just get 1 fracture or buy one without being fractured and fracture it yourself. It's actually not so expensive right now, I think, because it's only like 2 or 3 divines to fracture orb. It's kind of cheap actually. So I bought it fracture for like 30 divines. I think I scammed myself. Yeah, I think I scammed myself. Damn, I didn't thought about that. But yeah, fracture is really cheap right now. So just buy 1, fracture yourself. It's 1 in 4. It shouldn't be that expensive. Well, you get one of those. Then essence until you get suppression, and then you craft the prefixes with the Eldritch currency until you get whatever you are okay with, and craft the other stuff normally using the implicits and the suffix. In the boots, just get a suppressed base, throw some essence, I think delirium as well, cannot be poison, is guaranteed, and just hope for chaos resistance or something high. You don't need to be like super high resistance. I think tier 2 is good enough. And then you can do like Veiled Orb to get the moving speed, or just get it with Eldritch Orb, whatever you want. The only one that helps me will be the Onslaught, and I failed once, so I just get the 30% normally with the Eldritch currency because it's cheaper. And the gloves is just like you don't need a double fracture, just get a suppressed fracture, throw some essence, and until you get like tier 1 life, then you do something cannot be changed, Iceling or Veiled Orb or whatever, and you can get the cast speed while focus, or you can get something better. I remember you can get the +2. You can get the +2 to get more levels here, or you can get this one that gives you damage with non-ball skills. When you use the ball haste, you're gonna get 60% more damage or increased damage. That's really good. So whatever of those are great for the build. And I think that's it. Oh, the amulet. The amulet, I honestly bought this for like 40 divines, I think. But you can craft this, and it's not so hard, apparently. I don't have a recipe in Necropolis for this, but apparently it's not so hard. You can search in the internet to get one. I know there is lots there. And then use Essence until Dissolution and craft life. That will be it. The rest of the items, I don't know. What can I show you? Maybe the large cluster. Just buy this. It's cheap. And buy this one is cheap as well. This one is cheap too. And the Burn of Chaos, that's kind of expensive to buy, but it's not so expensive to craft. It's 1 in 26, if I'm not mistaken, to get the Burn of Chaos. So just alteration spam until you get Burn of Chaos, augment, regal, and pray for good stuff. We actually don't need most of it. I think we need only a bit of intelligence. So that's all. This one is absolutely unethical. I crafted this myself. I didn't even wanted to throw an Exile there. I think I'm gonna synthesize and then throw Exile or use Hinekora or something. It's completely unethical. but you don't need it. I only needed like a bit of cover resistance to cover here, and I got this completely. That's so rare, dude. just whatever. But this actually you don't need it. You only need Born of Chaos and a bit of cover resistance, and also it doesn't have to be here. You can have some cover resistance here or here or here or in your items. So it's not like you have to get it here. Well, that out of the way, and the only other thing I'm gonna say is the cast when I was taken is level 12. You can get it like 13 or 14. Just test out when you feel that's okay. I think 12 or even 13 feels pretty good. So if you get a 12, just try to get the match the level of the other gems. Like for example, Frost Shield requires level 60. This one says level 60 or lower. If you get it one level above, it's not gonna cast automatic. So keep that in mind. The same one here. And I actually want to take out the movement skill. I know it's weird, but we're actually pretty fast. I think we are pretty fast and we're good against everything, damage over time and big hits and also maybe I can just take this and put another cast when I was taken with Forbidden Rite and Cooling Strike. Leave it level 1 so you get a bit more damage and you get Cooling Strike and you don't have to worry about it. That will be probably what I'm gonna do because I don't actually need Frostblink. Yeah, it's pretty good to go fast, but I don't need it. And I'm gonna do voided maps. In many voided maps, you can't even use movement skills. So why would I bother to have a movement skill if I cannot use it? But a quick side note. So the last thing I wanna cover here will be the configuration tab because recently Jungron watched one of my builds and he was like, oh, this is bad, this has a lot of conditionals, and it's kind of hurts my heart because I thought he was a really good player and he understood what I have, but he messed up some stuff. So I want to just be clear and tell you why I have what I have here. First of all, the time spent stationary, that will be 1 second because we are hitting, right? So we are obviously stationary. That's why I call it the stationary. If you are not stationary, you still have like over 200k max hit. That's actually amazing. So, you know, when you are in combat, you are stationary. The Lunaris Shakari, we already talked about that. And we have Alchemist Genius because we have all the time. You can see it here. And that's without using the flask. If you use flask, we have it all the time. You see, if flask is about to run out and you use it. We have it all the time. We just use the flask and we have it all the time. When you are in combat, you will always have Alchemist Genius. Even though if we take it out, it's not much. Are you leeching life? Yes, even if we are not hitting because we have this grasp here. Also, nearby enemies, 1. What does it do? Absolutely nothing. I'm gonna leave it at 0 because we get 1% more movement speed. Have you been hit recently? Yes, we were using Forbidden Rite. Do you have Everlasting Sacrifice? Yes. An enemy is poisoned? Yes. Wither stack, 15. We hit like a million times with the Forbidden Rite, so yes. Enemy is hindered? Yes, because we have a cluster that does that. And enemy is blinded? Yes, because of the Scepter. And does the enemy has an energy shield? Let's be honest, almost everything has an energy shield, or anything that really matters has an energy shield. That's why I have it. If you don't have it, oh no, 2 million less damage. That will be it. The Frost Shield stages, you can see that it activates super fast all the time because we have a lot of energy shield when we're using Everlasting Sacrifice. And I'm not taking into account the low life that I already talked about that, and the debilitate, which give us even more effective hit pool. I should, but I'm not taking this into account. So that out of the way, I'm gonna come here to, where is it? To Despair? No, where is it? Where is it? There it is. I'm not taking into account also Ball Haste, but if we have it, we have even more damage. So that will be it. There is all of the build is here. The only side note is that if I'm gonna get one more level, which I hope I get, if I'm not, it's because I died in a Baldos map. I'm gonna take these 2 nodes out, that's a little bit less damage, and get 3 nodes of recoup. Recoup is really good because we're using Forbidden Rite, we all the time get damage, so that helps us to get even more sustain. And also give us a little bit more life, but that's like 10 more life, so who cares? But whatever. That will be my build if I get one more level. If I get one more level, I'm gonna get Circle of Life. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed the build. And if you enjoyed the build, just leave me a comment, give me a like, a subscribe, that helps a lot. And see you in the next one, Exiles. Bye bye.